The great writer, whose real name was Samuel Langhorne Clemens, was born on November 30th, 1835, in a small village called Florida in the state of Missouri. Years later, Twain described the village to those curious about his birthplace as follows: "There were 100 people living in the village. I increased the population of the village by 1%. History has never recorded anyone doing a greater deed in a town or a city than that." Twain was born in a small 2-room cabin, and in that small cabin, 8 people lived, including 1 slave girl. When Twain was an infant, swaddled in a blanket, he was very frail and sickly. No one believed he would survive. In an interview about his early memories of birth, he said, "Were you the only son of the family?" "No, I had a brother named William. We were twins. We looked exactly alike, like 2 drops of water." "Did your brother die?" "I don't know." "How? You don't know?" "Yes, I don't know. Whether the one who died was my brother or me, I still don't know." The great humorist explained this memory to the completely confused journalist. "Look, here is how it happened. We were both small. They put us in a bathtub to wash us. One of us drowned, but nobody ever knew whether it was William or me who drowned." When Twain was 4 years old, they moved to a town called Hannibal on the western banks of the Mississippi River. Twain spent all his childhood and youth here. Like many famous historical figures who left a mark, Twain disliked school because he thought it limited his freedom. Therefore, he often ran away from school and went to the riverbank. During these escapades, he also gained experience crossing the river by raft and exploring the caves around the river. He even faced the danger of drowning 9 times during these adventures. However, the information he gathered through these experiences led him to create immortal works like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. At the age of 12, he lost his father and left school. A few days later, he started working as an assistant in a printing shop. 2 years later, he became a typesetter. He worked in the printing house for 7 years. During this time, he also had the chance to visit cities like St. Louis, New York, Cincinnati, and Philadelphia. What changed Twain's life was a torn page he found while walking the streets of Hannibal. The page belonged to the biography of Joan of Arc. The page described Joan's imprisonment days in the castle. The 14-year-old Mark Twain, who had never heard of Joan of Arc before, was deeply saddened by the injustice she suffered. From that day on, he sought and read everything written about Joan of Arc. 46 years later, he wrote the book Personal Recollections of Joan of Arc. To avoid the impression that it was humorous, he did not put his own name on it. In his youth, Twain greatly desired to be wealthy. For this reason, he tried various jobs, but ended up failing each time. For example, influenced by a book he read, he thought about going to the Amazon basin to trade cocoa. He only had $50 in his pocket, which he had found by chance on the street one day. He started the journey quickly, but with that money, he was only able to get as far as Cincinnati. The second period of his life began when he went to Nevada with his older brother. He intended to stay 6 months, but ended up staying 7 years. He searched for gold, worked as a miner, and went on adventures in the Sierra Nevada mountains. The gold search was unsuccessful. However, by chance, he started working as a reporter. The pen was now in his hand. It was during this period that he first used the pseudonym Mark Twain in one of his writings. A real turning point for Twain, who wrote continuously at that time, was meeting Bret Hart in San Francisco. With Hart's encouragement, he wrote his first story, The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County. The story was published in New York in 1865. This was his breakthrough that introduced him to the whole of America. In 1867, Twain went on a trip to Egypt, Palestine, and Europe, visiting Istanbul and Izmir. The result of this trip was the book The Innocents Abroad, 1869. Thanks to this book, Twain's fame increased completely. He became the editor of the Brooklyn Express newspaper. Also in the same year, he married Olivia Langdon. The third period of Twain's life began in 1871. He quit journalism and settled in Connecticut. He lived there for 20 years. These 20 years became the happiest and most productive period of the writer. During this time in Connecticut, Twain published Roughing It, 1872, which tells of his mining adventures in the West, A Tramp Abroad, 1880, and The Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, 1889. Even more importantly, during this period, the three great series that made him America's best-known humorist writer were published. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, 1876, Life on the Mississippi, 1883, and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, 1884. In 1893, at age 58, Twain was in debt to many people. This period also revealed what kind of person Twain was. If Twain declared bankruptcy, he would be freed from his debts. However, he chose to pay all his debts down to the last penny. Despite poor health, he traveled the world and gave lectures to earn money. After this 5-year journey, he paid all his debts and owed no one. Mark Twain, who made the whole world laugh with his unique humor, lost his beloved wife and children in his later years. He spent his days in sadness and solitude. When he died in 1910, Twain was America's greatest writer. On the night he died, his only wish was for his daughter Clara, the only surviving child of his 4 children, to sing him Scottish songs. Interestingly, the Halley comet that appeared in the sky on the night of Mark Twain's birth on November 30th, 1835, was also visible in the sky on April 20th, 1910, the day he passed away.